start with our published agenda tonight. I have some comments to make. I feel that since I recessed the meeting the other night, that people in the city of Burien have the right to know why I took the action that I took. But I will answer here tonight, but I want to put the evening and our normal process into context first. Since 1993, it has never been the practice of council to vote on extremely important issues like a change in Burien city government without research, without discussion at prior meetings, and certainly not with absent members totally in the dark about the issue. Shooting from the hip types of legislation serves no one well. In addition, it has been a long-established practice among Burien City Council members to defer taking action on items that the absent members have an interest in. Discussion of items championed by an absent member has also been delayed until the members return. This is simple courtesy. Of course, if the item was time-sensitive or an emergency, action would be taken. Since 1993, the beginning of the city of Burien, these have been the practices during the terms of 24 different individual council members guided by 6 individual mayors, working with 3 permanent and 3 temporary individual city managers. We have always protected the right of all council members to be involved in a discussion before it is put in the form of a motion for adoption. I have always been proud of the fact that all of these people working together, working through their differences, with the ebb and flow of majority and minority status, have steadily moved the city ahead with the vision and the future as their North Star. But through it all, we have respected the right of each to be included in the conversation. Councilmember Block, like other council members historically, received this courtesy during his recent absence for surgery as well as vacations in the past. Every council member has been granted this courtesy and respect until the August 6, 2012 meeting, when Councilmember Block put a motion on the floor in my absence. Research would have shown him that that motion to take annexation off the ballot would have needed to be made at least 1 month earlier in order to allow the process to work through the King County Council, the only body with the authority over the ballot. On November 19, 2012, 2 members, Mayor Bennett and Councilmember McGilton, were absent. It is true that they were away on personal business. There is not one Burien council member who has ever had perfect attendance. As human beings, they have the right to personal time, to surgery time, and sometimes to traveling on behalf of the city. Every elected official in the country and beyond faces the need to balance public service with their personal lives. On the 19th, the meeting was going well until we reached the point on the agenda where we talk about city business. At this point on the agenda, normally there's no action to take. It is the time at which our city manager routinely updates council and the community of recent developments of note. That would be followed by the individual council member summarizing meetings or events he or she had attended. The council member Block interrupted with his first motion to rescind the PAA on North Highline. The annexation issue was dealt with at the ballot box, and that is a different issue from the PAA. And the PAA means potential annexation area. Refusing to acknowledge the lack of respect of 2 absent council members who pressed on in spite of the fact that during his absences he had received this courtesy. This was not an emergency issue nor one of time constraints. motion because it involves changing both the Burien City Comp Plan and the King County Comp Plan. It is not the annexation issue that is codified in the documents. It is the PAA which allows Burien a seat at the table in future discussions concerning the future of this area. The complicated process would be long and could not be handled by a simple motion by one council member. A little research on the part of Council Member Block would have shown him this. This motion was seconded by Council Member Krakowiak in spite of the fact that she, in the interest of transparency, always insists that we refrain from placing a motion on the floor and vote on it at the same meeting. And Council Member Edgar was the third member who voted for this motion. So without research, they voted to withdraw from the PAA as I previously described. At home, I am sure the residents thought the motion passed, but further action will be needed due to the complexities of the issue. Councilmember Block's second motion was to place the idea of Burien having an elected mayor on the April ballot. This is a significant change in the city's charter and has considerable budget implications. Councilmember Block had mentioned this item at one previous meeting. Because we have been consumed by the budget and by the budget discussions, the council has not placed the elected mayor item on the agenda for discussion, which would be our normal protocol. Placing a change in our form of government on the agenda would set the table for discussion so that the residents could hear and understand the complexities and budget implications of changing our form of government. After reasoning together and with public input, we would be better able to make a wise decision. A decision on a ballot measure by the public would be the end result. I myself had questions about this, but since it was not on the agenda, I knew staff would not be prepared to help us understand this matter. Then there was the issue of two absent council members who would have had zero input into a discussion to transform Burien's mode of government. I tried very hard to reason with Councilmember Block, hoping he would table the motion until a future date when all council members were present. Rather than allow rash action totally out of order and sequence, I chose to recess the meeting. I am aware that this is the first time in the history of Burien that any presiding officer has recessed in this manner. Recessing with a motion on the floor necessarily means the issue of an elected mayor would be discussed in the future before action is taken. Councilmember Block has inferred that he had a third motion that would cause us to hire 2 additional police officers. What a surprise, since during the budget discussions he wanted to eliminate the school resource officer position historically posted at Highline High School. A little research would have shown him that the SRO position has been instrumental in resolving issues in public safety costs at the Burien Library, the transit-oriented development, cartels, Burger King, as well as the town square condo units. But on a whim, he wanted to reduce that position, but now he wanted to add 2 new positions. And this would be done after the budget for the next 2 years was adopted only a couple of weeks ago. If this indeed was his third motion for the evening, he would have been adding in excess of $250,000 for new officers to our just adopted budget without discussion by the full council. There is a financial cost to placing an initiative on the ballot, and I think that it's at least $30,000. Then there would be the undetermined cost of changing our form of government. Clearly, it was inappropriate to add these expenditures outside the budget process, which just ended a couple of weeks ago, not to mention without having the full council present. So this is why I took the action that I took. I will be giving these comments to our city clerk for inclusion in the October 3rd packet. I want to thank you for listening, and now we will move on to tonight's published agenda, which staff has been preparing for past month or so. So with that, Mr. Block had a motion, and we do not have that motion in front of us. I do not know if he gave that motion to the staff. So I will ask Mr. Block to restate the motion, and then we can go back. Councilmember Block, you're speaking to the amendment or the motion?
I'm speaking to the motion. You know, we've went through a very tumultuous period with an unnecessary call to annex an area to move forward with something that the majority of Burien's residents don't want. That has nothing to add to our city, and as a result, our community has been torn apart. And I made the motion that I made at the original, at the last meeting, with the intent of removing this issue from the ballot. I mean, from contention. The second motion, as I stated, was intended to focus the community on something positive, to bring us together. I feel it was wholly appropriate to bring it up in that context, and I did so. You know, there's been a lot of high talk, Councilman Robinson, about elections, and I want to point out that when I brought up the issue of removing the ballot issue from the annexation ballot issue from the on August 6th, Councilmember Robinson said that it was voter suppression. You know, I want to know why this is voter suppression when we are taking this off the ballot, not adding this. I think the residents of Burien have and deserve a choice on who they have as their leader and what form of government that we move forward with. And I think that under our present system, the citizens of Burien are ill served. I want to point out that under our present system, all power is vested within the council. The council chooses the executive who runs the city. And as we are all aware from our civics classes when we were in high school, we're supposed to have three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. And vesting all the power in one branch of government, the council, is not an appropriate way to go forward. And I think that we've seen the results of that. So I felt it was wholly appropriate to bring this issue up in the context of the recent annexation debacle, and as an opportunity to bring our community together. Thank you.
Are we ready to vote on the main motion? Okay, register your votes, please.
That motion also fails. 3 to 3.